And so this is similar to f of x is equal to the square root of x. And really what they want us to do is, what's the difference between them from the function perspective? Like, what's different between r of x and f of x? Well, it has a negative 10 under the square root symbol. So what does that look like graphically, I guess is what they're trying to figure out, okay? So what we have to do is graph both functions in the calculator and see what those differences are. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here and I'm just going to graph them, and I'm going to say, I'll do the parent function first. Oops. And we'll just hit graph. And that's what the regular square root function looks like, right? So now when I plug in, and I'm going to change the window. I know I'm going to need to. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I think -1 to 5 will be fine. So that's what the square root function looks like. I changed the window a little bit. This is the basic square root function. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to graph r of x, square root of x minus 10. And I think, and so I'll have to change my window just a little more. Let's make the x max like 24. So what do you think the difference between the two functions are? Well, one is just slid over a little bit. That's it. This negative 10 has basically moved it 10 units to the right, sort of. So they're similar, and this is what they're asking for. It says, how does the graph relate to the basic 12 functions? So it transforms it a little bit, but it just shifts it over a little bit to the right. And that's basically it. Now the reason that it shifts it over a little bit to the right, we'll talk about later. Right now we're just trying to graph these and take a look and just kind of try to define them, but not real formal, right? So, what section is this? 1.3? So if you were to look this up in the back of the book, and I'm looking it up in the back of the book, why would Mr. Adams look it up in the back of the book? Cheat. No, not to cheat. To make sure that I understand the question properly. Okay? So when we compare the value, it doesn't ask us to, it asks us a bunch of questions actually. I was just answering part D, but let's go through all the questions. Part A, on what interval, if any, is the function increasing or decreasing? Okay, so now if I come to my second function here, at 6 and at certain x values, I don't get much of anything on that graph. In fact, not until I get to 10, right? So it increases from 10 and above. So part A says, when is this function increasing? Right? So we're talking about r of x equals the square root of x minus 10. Part A says, when is it increasing, decreasing? Well, it's increasing from x equals, well, it goes from 10 to positive infinity, right? Another way we could write that is 10 comma infinity. And it's just increasing. It never decreases at all. Is it odd or even or neither? This is neither. It's neither odd nor even. Part C asks us, are there any extreme values in this thing? Well, the only extreme value is the minimum, right? When I plug in 10, I get y equals 0. So there is a minimum value. Now that's a little different It's a little different than we're used to, right? We're used to seeing the hills and valleys as being a minimum and maximum values. Now, we would call this the extreme because it is the absolute lowest point on the whole graph, right? Okay. And then part D is the one I started with, comparing the two functions, f of x and r of x. R of x is f of x shifted 10 units to the right. They're the exact same function except one's shifted 10 units over to the right. Does that make sense? So that's what you need to do for every question in that little section there.